Recording now. So welcome, official welcome everyone who's watching this to week 27, 27 out of 30. So got a couple more weeks left on this. Um, Depending on when you're watching this, uh, there's going to be a couple breaks in the time. So uh, the date that we're recording this is, whoa, what is all this junk? I just want the fun. Oh, there we go. But like, I just want the so, Gal, you appreciate this. I had to do a reboot of my computer, reformat. Um, my
Oh
computer
no.
last week was just started acting slow, and like it was loading up slow and opening everything, moving the mouse slow, and I could take the hour or two to like I did a little investigative work to see, what's going on, running the old antivirus,
Hmm.
and I have CCleaner that, goes in
Yep.
and cleans up all the files and gets rid of all the unnecessary stuff. But it was still doing it, and it was so funny because I was with my son, and I was getting really angry at my computer. What are you doing? Like, let's go. You're not supposed to be doing this. Um,
Windows update.
yeah,
I
I th co it coincided with a recent update, and so
Yeah.
I'm thinking that was it, and I was like, I'm always like hesitant to do it. Um, then
Yep.
for some reason in CCleaner, for those that don't know, is this just this app? It's a great app. I highly
What does this
recommend it.
Steve what does this C stand for again?
I don't know. You know?
Oh crap, I can't remember.
Crap. Oh, I'm never gonna look at CCleaner the same again. But yeah, they got a driver updater, and man, I don't know. Every time I run the driver updater, there's one of them. There's like 25 that I have to update, and I think there's
Yeah.
one that like totally nukes my computer where whenever I try to start it again, it just gives like this circle,
Yep.
like it doesn't like it doesn't get into the boot. Luckily, I'm
Right.
still able to get to like the boot, the boot
Yeah.
options and the Windows stuff. But I was like, I could go and I could try to figure all this stuff out, but I just went with a fresh one because I haven't
Just
done it in a while.
do it over. Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's cool.
it used to be this whole big process. It was like I would have to get the CD and I would have to like, do the process and then install all this stuff. And I don't know, when I did it, I do most of my stuff in the cloud now, so like I don't have to
Right.
worry about files. And I think that was the main thing, was I was like worried about losing files. But everything can be installed again. Uh everything's in the cloud, so I don't have to worry about missing stuff on the computer. And that was a long way to say that if something doesn't work in this thing, like I just installed Zoom yesterday, I just installed Chrome like right before we got in here, so there might be some
Ah,
problems, and I got stuff going in the background. So earlier I wasn't
yeah.
able to hear what you were saying fully because I was like trying to uninstall stuff,
And you
uninstall the junk.
wonder and you wonder if the term planned obsolescence is actually something. Does it exist?
I was
Makes
like,
you
no,
wonder,
come on,
right?
man. I just got this
I
laptop like
know.
years
I
ago.
know.
It can't already be done. So, anyways, it's working fine. Really long
Cool.
intro for everybody who just got in. Sorry.
I was
Um,
laughing because what popped up on your bar, I saw Xbox Live and I was laughing about it. But
oh,
now I know why. I know
yeah, it's
exactly
like just
why.
random stuff coming on. I'm like, okay. Oh yeah, it's because I was trying to get to the clock, and usually I click my clock and it shows my calendar. So,
Yeah.
okay. The before I got way sidetracked, next week and is the March 21st and March 28th, the following week. We're not going to have any live sessions here, because everybody will be on break, and y'all should just enjoy your break. You can catch up on older ones. There's still a lot of work to do in this course if you haven't gone through and done the indicators and standards. We will resume on the 4th, so April 4th. Um, and then we've got, so that'll be the week 28, 29, and 30. We should finish right around here, unless something comes up.
Would you
we.
be able to turn some of those on, like one or two of those on during the
Oh,
break
you
if
know
you
what I'll
wanted
do
to
for
work
you,
on it?
Kelly? I'll uh what's it called? Publish.
Publish.
I'm
There
like
you go.
publicize. No. I'll publish week 28, 29, and 30 um Monday or Tuesday or something like that. And
Are we going to
then
go back to week 23 or is that already done?
well, you know
I don't
what? That is
remember.
true. We should go back. We should go back. So let's, yeah, I forgot we had to skip one. So let's this last week of April, the 25th. I think that seems like a good time to end it. So yeah, we'll do that last week, the whatever week we skipped. It was either 23 or 24. We'll do
Yeah.
that one on the 25th. Okay. That was housekeeping. Um Speaking of houses here, we're almost done with our build. Simon says, install wooden stairs to make your course easily navigable. Um, that is a rough analogy to what we're going to be doing in week 27. Week 27, we can see is framing clear assessment expectations. Okay. This is the start of a new standard. So if we look back, we over the last 3 weeks we were doing framing. Oh no, this is wrong. Framing. Oh, the title is wrong here. Sorry. Looks like it got copied from before. Week 27. Let's check our alignment here. So week 27 is framing clear. Is that right? Is that not the same? Does that not say the same thing? Week 26, framing clear expectation assessment expectations. Week 27. Okay, there might have been a typo
Yeah, it says the same thing.
when I was creating this. Oh, it's doing the same thing here. So it looks like some copying and pasting went wrong. So I'll update whatever the title is. The focus here, let's see. So each stair represents a different type of assessment. Well, we're going to talk about different kinds of assessments. So instead of focusing on the expectations, we're more on the different styles or types of assessments. So diagnostic, formative, summative, and performance-based. Um, but I do think that that is related here. Actually, you know what? I can find the official focus here on the Washington course design checklist. So we're 3.3. I believe this is 3.3. Let me double check. Yeah, 3.3, balanced variety of assessments. So this is a more accurate title for the week. Let me just double check. Course includes balanced variety of assessments. So make sure I'm going to change that real quick so that the people don't get confused. Sorry, everyone, if I'm clicking around like a wild person, but what I'll do while I'm changing all this stuff in the background, um, where's our, actually, I'll keep talking about the objective and the alignment, and then once we get to the actual 3.3, then I'll give you a second to read that while I go and change it on the back end. This is also wrong. Wow. It's like when this was set up, it wasn't set up very well. So apologize for that. Any confusion? Our objective, though, this is real. Provide a balanced variety of assessments that guide students through each level of skill development, ensuring they have multiple opportunities to practice, receive feedback, and refine their understanding of course concepts. And this will all be updated, but I think this is correct. The critical thinking, and then you can see the balanced variety of assessments down here for the course learning outcomes. All right, so I'm going to click all these ones open for y'all. I'll also put this in the chat for the people who are here. And I'm going to do some page editing. Oh, Anthony had to go. That's fine. Oh, but Derek got here. I don't know if I said hello to Derek. Derek, how you doing?
I'm good. I was a little late. I was at Pi Day celebration.
Pi Day. Ah, I forgot about Pi Day. Oh, well, happy Pi
See,
Day.
I thought it was a different pie. I was expecting little computers, not pies.
Did she give out little pies and then little raspberry pie?
Raspberry pies, yeah. There
Oh,
That's
look
you
at that.
go.
Yeah, little cherry
A
pie.
little pie. That's great. A handheld pie.
yep.
Gonna run Linux? Oh, that was a geek joke.
Have
Sorry.
you have you messed around with those raspberry pies, Kelly?
Oh, I use them at the data. We use them at the data center. They are pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
I've always been
you
interested,
know,
but I've never like gone and made
command
the
and control stuff.
cool.
You drop them on a network and connect them to whatever you need to connect them to automate something or to run a task. I use them for security audits, hide them on a network, and run Kali Linux and pick apart the network, look for security vulnerabilities. Um, I even have one that I built in a little toolbox with wireless modules on it,
Oh,
and they call them pineapples, but yeah, they're pretty cool little boxes, cool things.
yeah, I've always been interested
You know, it's really cool.
experimenting with it.
I built a guitar pedal out of a Raspberry Pi that emulates over 250 pedals, different guitar pedals. Um, it's
So
all
cool.
Oh yeah, it's called Pi Stomp. Um,
Stomp.
yep, cool stuff. It's amazing what you can do with those things now.
Look it up. Pie stomp kit. Oh,
That's it. And they're based out of Seattle. I know the guy that designed this. Pretty cool stuff. I've built several of them, build them for clients like on the side, and then I own two of them.
that's your side hustle.
Yeah, kind of one of.
Very cool. All right. Let me see. I'm almost done here with this. And for anybody else, uh, I know we were talking, so I'm gonna stop talking so everybody can read this stuff, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so went ahead and updated everything. So hopefully, if you refresh, it will look correct. So purpose of this standard 3.3 balanced variety of assessments. The official name here. Course includes a balanced variety of assessments. Um, is to encourage you to reflect on the types of assessments and assessment methods used in your course. Um, we talked about this already, diagnostic, formative, summative, and performance assessment types. We will go into more detail into what those are if you're not too sure. Um, but I would say just briefly, diagnostic, just kind of seeing the level at what they're at, where your students are at. Formative is more like you tell them something and then they give you the answer right there. It's it's not like all the knowledge of a unit or a chapter or something like that. It's more like it's almost like a conversation, and you're kind of like checking them to make sure that they're understanding as they're going through. Summative would be the one where it's like at the end of a unit or uh, end of a course, a midterm, like the big tests. Those would be the summative. You think of the sum of all of their knowledge. And then performance assessments are just, they have to do something. They have to perform something, usually like in front of you. Think of, like a speech, public speaking class. That would be a performance. Yes, Kelly.
Um, Actually, being at the end of the quarter, this perfect topic. Um, my students have to build a USB flash drive with 3 different Linux operating systems on it. They're called live distros. They run in memory, right? They have to be able to explain to me, how do you do it?
Mhm.
They have to be able to choose 3 out of many Linux distros, test them, choose 3, tell me a little bit about each distro and why they chose them, because it's a
Mm.
toolkit, it's a troubleshooting kit, really. And then they have to be able to put it together and use it, boot it up, show me it works, take screenshots, and then put it in a write-up of how they would use it in the industry
Oh.
when they graduate. And that's my, you know, the ending summative. Um, so they go through all those stages for this project throughout the quarter. I
Mhm.
don't give it to them on the last week. They get them in. This happens like in week 5, and
Mm.
they're working on it throughout the quarter. And then at the end, I meet with them and go over it with them one on one. And the cool thing is it can be used when they go to work. A server isn't booting. You turn on your computer and you get that spinning Windows thing. You could plug this flash drive in and boot it to the flash drive, access the hard drive, get the files backed up, whatever you need off that hard drive, and you could put Windows on it and reinstall it or recover it.
Oh,
And that's
like
just one of
that.
my classes. I do that every quarter with every student. So that would hit all of those, wouldn't it?
I was gonna say, as you were explaining, I was like, okay, it's got performance. I see your everything together at the end. As they're making it, they're getting formatively assessed. I would say the only thing is the diagnostic. That usually diagnostics kind of like at the beginning, just
You
to
know
kind
what's funny
of.
is that diagnostics happens because they'll pick these like oddball Linux distros that aren't gonna necessarily work on a flash drive. There's less a chance it's gonna work than it isn't,
Uh-huh.
and then it won't work, and then they'll run into trouble. Well, they have to document that in their weekly report and tell me what happened.
Okay.
Why did that happen?
I mean, like
What?
in that sense, it would be diagnostic because
Right.
you're kind of running diagnostics. You know what I mean?
Like I told them, do not disable UEFI or secure boot, which is the security keys to the hard drive for Windows and the computer.
Uh-huh.
And because if you disable it and you turn the computer on with it disabled after already, running it with it enabled, it will corrupt the hard drive. You won't be able to get into that hard drive. It'll lock it. Then you have to go through this process with Microsoft to get your security keys, input them to get the hard drive to boot back up. So I warned them, and I had a student do it on her personal computer. I felt so bad, but I walked her through the process of how to recover the keys
Yeah.
and get it to boot back up, and she was fine, but she learned that lesson. So in class this last week, she asked me if she could share it with the class. So I said absolutely. So she shared with the class her experience. Like, Kelly told us not to do this, and I did it, and I'm going to tell you why. He's telling us
I'm gonna
not to
tell you how
do
much of a
this.
pain in the butt it was.
Oh yeah, yeah, because it should only be used for recovery or uh technical support type situations when a server's down, a machine's down, and you've got to get into it to get that data off. That's what this is really for.
Yeah.
But they learned that the hard way, and that's it's a fun class to teach.
Yeah, I like it. I like well, I think any time, any subject, any class where you have people that are making mistakes and then learning from their mistakes, I feel like that's where the learning happens. And
Yeah.
the fact that your student said, I want to tell the other students about this, like you could tell them all day, do this, don't do this. But if they hear it from another student,
Hmm.
then I feel like they're just gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I really shouldn't do that.
Well, even in my security class, they have to do an audit but not get caught, so to speak.
Mm.
They're ethical hacking, right? Um, they'll think they got away clean, and then I'll have them pull the log files off the server that they were running it on and tell me if they got away clean. And they usually don't. The log files usually catch them, you
Oh,
know, and then we go over why did that happen? What
mm.
caused that to trigger that log file? Because if I was admin, I would have caught you 5 minutes into this. You
Oh.
know what I mean? So let's go back and figure out a way to do this without that log file triggering or without, an issue popping up.
Mm. Your class sounds so fun.
It can be. It can get frustrating, honestly, but I think it's fun. I hope it's fun.
Might have to take some classes with you next quarter. I need to get I used to be really good with computers, but I haven't been as deep as I used to get. And so
Oh,
I feel
that's
like
okay
I'm
though.
out of the loop on most
Things
of it.
change so rapidly. It's hard to stay on top of it in this industry, but it's fun.
Yeah. Okay, so there was an example here about Hassan taking some online business class. The Yeah. How many times have you been in this situation, or maybe this is your situation in your class? Um, Being anxious about earning a passing grade when there's only two tests. There's a midterm and there's a final, and then there's a final project. Few small homework assignments, few quizzes, but the big worry for this student are these three things here. The big test in the midterm, big test for the final, and then a final project.
There's not
Writing,
enough check-ins, right?
right.
Yeah,
That's what's I think missing here in this situation. Writing a business plan is a very large project with lots of parts, and it's worth a lot of points. Hassan wants to do well, but isn't sure how to do everything and really needs to practice new skills and get feedback before turning it in. So this part here, the new skills and getting feedback, that's that formative. You're kind of like, if you think about it, you're like forming your knowledge about whatever you're learning. And so that kind of that instant feedback is very helpful if possible. So something like like a Kahoot would be a good tool for formative assessments. Um, Kahoot essentially just a quiz,
Kat
like a
Morris uses
breadsticks
that.
quiz. Yeah.
She loves that.
Which
That
one?
Kahoot. Catherine
Oh
Morris
yeah,
uses
yeah.
it. It's awesome.
It's fun. It's good. It makes it's like I was saying, it's essentially a quiz, and so it takes the quiz and then makes it more fun,
Yep.
which I can appreciate. Um, so yeah, the some problems here. I know I used to I'll tell you the best class that I one of the best classes that I've ever taken when I was in my undergrad, I was taking a art history class. And in art history class, you have to know a bunch of you have to be able to look at a painting and you have to tell like who did it, what's it called, where's it from, when was it, it's like who, what, when, where, why, all that kind of stuff. Um, why was it important? And the teacher said there was no final. Or I can't remember if there was a final or if there was not a final, but the majority of the grade from the class was from weekly quizzes. So we'll go to the class. I think we met like twice a week, but every Monday we would have a quiz. And when I first got in there, I was like, "What? Every week a quiz? That's that's crazy. Like, what? How's that going to work?" But what it did was it helped me to, really study and really focus instead of trying to cram everything, into the last second for the final, which is, what happens in a lot of classes where you'll have this final summative assessment that's got everything, like Hassan's class here. And it took that pressure off of that. Like I wasn't worried about a final. I think it was something like if you get a certain amount of points on a quiz, like if your average for all the quizzes during the semester was a certain amount, you didn't have to take the final. So as long as you're like working diligently and doing the stuff every week, then you wouldn't have to take the final at the end. And so I don't know. For me, I felt like that was a lot less pressure than if it were the other way around. And so um, I like Kelly what you said about in your class where it's like you're working on stuff starting on week 5, you're putting together these distros on the USB, and then at the end you're just showing like this is what I did and this is how I did it and this is why. It's kind of the similar thing. Um, then it almost turns it into a like almost like a portfolio where it's like here's some of the work that I've done throughout the quarter, and this is what I learned from it. So um, props to you, Kelly,
Well,
for
thank
doing
you.
that.
And I think making assessments flexible is a big deal and making them fun. And
Hmm.
and sometimes it's hard to do that. I'm a storyteller and I get a lot of positive feedback because I'll tie something that you wouldn't think about, just everyday stuff into the topic. For a quick example is, when they build a house, they level the ground and then they plot out the foundation and they pour a concrete foundation and they build a house on it. That concrete foundation is the kernel of your operating system, right?
Mm,
And when I start going in that direction, students start to look at it differently. They realize, when I do an update, Windows is updating the foundation of
mm,
the operating system. And that's why sometimes it crashes. It's because the foundation wasn't poured correctly, or maybe it crumbled in the corners.
hmm,
Um, Windows, if that happens, you gotta rebuild it. With Linux, you can pick up the operating system and slide a new foundation under it and drop it back down and boot it right back up. And when they see that, they go, "Oh my gosh, this is great." That's why you don't see as much malware for Linux, and because they can't
mm,
do to it what they can do to Windows, because Windows doesn't give you the ability to do that.
mm,
The foundation is the foundation for all OSs. It's what you're allowed to do with it that makes that difference.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think the power of analogies is very important.
But I have them come up with their own sometimes, and that's real fun too, because then they can come up with their own analogies, and some come up with some really good stuff. Um, and that's an option. That's For me, that's like a flexible assessment of the topic. Tie it into your own story. I tell them a story and I go, now you do your own. How would you teach this to somebody with a story?
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
really how would
it's
you teach this to somebody else with it? Because that kind of shows mastery. If you're able to teach it to another person, then you've really understood it. And
yep,
so if you're making students, if you're teaching them that skill, then I think that's just going to help them in the long run. I can't, as you're explaining that thing, I'm like, I've heard that somewhere before where you need to
yep,
flatten the ground,
yep.
clear it out, start filling it in. I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. The analogy of building a house. I like that.
Yeah, it's the same thing with an operating system. That's You're looking at the kernel when they put that foundation in.
So in the same way, if I were to bring it into this course, you want to set that foundation, that sense of belonging in your class. Once you got that rock solid, sense of belonging for your students, then you can start build in on top of it, the assessments and the outcomes and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I've been telling that story for years though, just so you know.
that's great. It's good. I mean,
When
we
I
have a
saw
lot of
this,
overlap.
yeah, no, when I saw the way this was laid out, I was laughing because I was like, man, this is crazy.
It's a good one. The building the house or the climbing the mountain, that's always a good one
Yeah,
that I like.
absolutely.
We got some questions here in the assignment. So I'll go ahead and put these ones in the chat. And actually, this will be a good chance to give you all what you need.
Do you want all of that or just one of those?
Um, Whatever it takes you an hour to write about.
Yeah.
So if you spend an hour on the first one, that's fine.
Well,
But
the
I
third
don't
one, I
imagine
got a
that.
whole page on the third one that I've written. But I'm looking, they all apply, is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
I could write a whole page just on the third one.
Okay.
Easy, easy.
Easy. Okay. I think
But they kind of all tie together. Hmm.
yeah, this is what we're realizing with these CWLOs. It's like all the
Right.
CWLs kind of like fold into each other.
Yeah.
Like, how
Everything's,
do we really differentiate them?
we've got the stepping stones, but that's really what they are.
Yeah. Okay, let me do this real quick because if I don't, then I'm gonna forget. So 28. Oh no, is it backwards?
No, it's fine.
It's good.
Is that lowercase first letter?
All lowercase, yeah. It's not backwards.
No, I can read it.
Now is it backwards?
No,
Now it's good?
it's still good. It didn't change.
What?
It
I'm
didn't
mirroring
change,
the
honestly.
video. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I still see you.
If
Yeah.
you say so, as long as you got it.
On your screen, it's backwards, huh?
Yeah, for me it was flipping back and forth.
Yeah, I wasn't seeing that. I was
Okay.
Derek, did he flip back and forth for you? Because I didn't see that.
No, no, it was fine for me.
Oh my God.
Okay.
What is happening? All right. All right, Derek, you got it?
I did. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
I was just sending you a message because sometimes you're like helping a student or something. So okay. So shall we talk about this? I see we've got 20 minutes left. I'd be interested in hearing from y'all's perspective. How do the assessments in your course help students identify their strengths and define target areas that need work?
Ooh,
So,
that's a good
so
question.
yeah.
I know with mine, I have students who struggle with technology terms or taking something that's technological and changing it so somebody who is not technological can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that comes out sometimes when I ask them, now come up with the story that you're getting, so you could teach somebody else. And then I'll say, and these people are, just non-techies. And
Mm-hmm.
then watch what they do. And it'll come out real quick, like, man, the analogies, I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to explain that. Or writing, technical writing is a pain. And some people are good at it, some people aren't. So by them submitting their reports, that'll jump out real quick what they need to work on. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, and I guess the feedback that you give them helps them to identify if they need to work on that more or not.
Right. Right. So
Um,
I that's when I'd give them an analogy and say, you guys try to come up with your own story.
mhm.
Um, and you're teaching somebody or a group of people that are non-techies. So how are you going to
Yeah,
explain this to them?
you got to know your audience. Yeah, right.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so sometimes I run into that problem. I always try to remain, I try to stay cognizant of that with the faculty here because we're at a technical college, and
Yes.
I like to think that there's a certain level of base knowledge um, related to computers and stuff. And I had an instruction that said, put all the files into a zip folder, or it was something like zip the files together. And
Mm.
when I was talking to one of the faculty members, they were like, I don't know what that means. What does zipping a file mean? And so that's kind of that curse of knowledge where you have an assumption that everybody knows a certain thing, but they don't. And so I'm like,
When I worked as a chair, I ran into that, and I would have to remind others, like, just please keep in mind that this person came out of industry
mm-hmm,
and they're great at teaching and showing you how to fix this stuff, but they may not know the educational lingo, you know,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and that's something we got to help them with.
Yeah. Took me a while to figure out what pedagogy meant. I was like, what is this weird word that I keep seeing everywhere? Like I'm going to like education conferences back in Korea, and I'm
You
like,
know what's cool though is you can admit that, and that opens, like, somebody who watches this video is going to go, I'm not the only one,
yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I still don't know the proper way to say it. I say pedagogy, but some people say pedagogy. So
I say goji.
goji. Goji means something different in Korea.
It does it.
Uh,
Oh
he's a
no.
homeless person. So my wife
Okay.
sometimes will be driving around. She'll be like, oh, so many goji. Anyways, Derek, what about you? Do you have assessments in your course that help students identify their strengths and define their target areas of or their weaknesses?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so like just like homework assignments, right? Like for chemistry, homework assignments definitely helped with that. But before we even get there, of course, give examples of calculations and whatnot in the lecture. But then I have a slide where it's like, okay, we're going to do these calculations or practice problems, whatever. And they have little 8 by 10 whiteboards that they do it on, and then I can walk around and help them out and sort of check in on them. So I, used to have them do them, and they would just write it in their notes. But like a lot of times they're writing in their notes and they're using the like lined paper and writing super small, and like I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't see. So like even on a 8 by 10 whiteboard, same size, they'll write it bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then we of course go over it as a class as well. So it's just like a little check for them and for me, because like if no one in the class is getting it or most of the class isn't getting it, I clearly need to spend more time on that concept,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But it's also a check for them. Like if they're not getting it and they're needing a lot of my help or like classmates' help, they know that they need to work on that
Mm.
some more.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's pretty much a formative assessment to a T, where it's like you're asking them a bunch of questions. They're just like quick little knowledge checks. I like you're using, I guess we would call them slates, right? The little 8 by 10 whiteboards. It reminds me, in Korea they have this TV show called The Golden Bell, and let's see if I can find it here. Star Golden Bell. And what it is it's a bunch of kids, and they have well, I guess sometimes they're adults. Oh no, this is just somebody following that same method but at their company. Um, yeah, usually they do it with like high schoolers or like middle schoolers, and they have the little boards and they have to write the answer on the board, hold it up, and then like when it's time, everybody hold it up, everybody holds it up, and if you get it correct, then you get to go on to the next round, but if you get it incorrect, you have to put it down. um that was always a fun one that I used to do that with my students. That was a more summative because I would say like the main difference between a formative and formative doesn't really matter if you get it wrong. It's more like, hey, this is basically what we were just saying. This is my target area that I need to work on. The putting it up, and if you get it wrong, you're out. That seems like more like end of the quarter summative assessment, where it's like you should know this stuff. Formative is you don't know it that well. Like I said, you're still kind of forming your knowledge about it. Summative is like the sum of all the knowledge that you've accumulated. So I would say for this one also rubrics. We talked a little bit about rubrics already, but a rubric is very clear to the student and also to the educator where the students are excelling or where they need work. And so if you have a rubric set up on an assignment and it says you need to have a certain amount of this, or if you need to do this, if it's like either do it or don't. I know Kelly's got a lot of like you either can do it or you can't do it. That kind of thing also lets the students know where they're lacking. And I'm hoping that as everybody's teaching, they're realizing that, the students aren't knowing something well. If many students don't know it that well, then I feel like that's on the instructor. Either
That's
the
an issue
instructor's
on it.
not,
Yep.
yeah, and not explaining it clear enough, or there's, I don't know, something else that's going on, with the students. But if most of the students are doing well, and then there's one or two that are struggling, at least they'll know, okay, I need to do this. And then I'm pretty sure we talked about it. I think Kelly says like you'll reach out to your students, right? If they're like struggling on something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they hear from me.
Yeah. So that's I mean, I know that oh, that's what I wanted to say. If you can make those ones where they're still kind of forming their knowledge, if you can make those low stakes, uh, or no stakes, like if they get it wrong, if they're holding up the whiteboards or writing stuff on the whiteboards and they're getting it wrong, just letting them know, hey, this is where you need to study more. This is what you need to work on more. I think that's helpful for them. If if you're saying like, you got this wrong, and so now, that's it. You don't got another chance to do it again. I feel like that adds a level of pressure to them that makes them not want to try. If they can try and fail, then they'll try more, and then hopefully, get it after the second or third time. Um, but if they try, fail, and then get a failing grade, then they're not going to want to try again. So, okay. Next question here. How have you ensured that the low and high stakes assessment opportunities in your course are balanced and scaffolded for student success? Would either of you like to take that one, talk about that one?
I mean, I think Kelly, what he was hitting on earlier with like they're building up to the final project, right? That's scaffolding. But like I know for me, I definitely have assignments like big projects, right? But they're scaffolded. So
Mm,
an example is like, um, and I do this in multiple courses, but like uh, this quarter, I had my students, they had to submit a project idea for something for like a paper that they're like a topic they are going to research and write a paper and do a presentation on, right? So the presentation and the paper are like the big things, right? The big scary things at the end of the quarter. Um, but the project idea, they can research multiple ideas real quick, and then choose one, right?
mhm,
So, for example, I had a student that researched like how the tribes, do um, uh, like how they're involved in fisheries and forestry and stuff like that. Another one of the students, they chose to do like wildlife monitoring techniques for whales, manta rays, and corals. um, really interested in marine life, right? So as long as it relates to the rural aspects of Washington State, in other words, uh, wildlife, fisheries, agriculture, and forestry,
Hmm.
like it's pretty open, right? So they just propose a project idea, um, you know, less than a paragraph. I give them feedback on that. And then from there, they write a rough draft slash outline. So they have to have like a completed like introduction section to their paper, and then they
Hmm.
can outline the rest. Now, of course, they have the option of writing a full rough draft, but at a minimum, they have to have the introduction and an outline. And then they have the full final paper and then the presentation. And all of them were like, they're like, their presentations were supposed to be between 10 and 12 minutes, and they're all like, they're all like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be 10 or 12 minutes. You might as well just take some points off right away. And they all nailed it. 10, 10, 11,
Wow.
12 minutes. And I was like, I don't know what you guys were worried about. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, the classic. Well, you never know. Like 5 minutes could be the longest time in the world, but also 5 minutes could go so fast. Like
exactly. Yeah. What I tell
you were just
students,
talking for 5 minutes. Like we, if we run the clock back.
I know. And what I tell students is like, listen, plan, like, I usually figure about a minute per slide.
Hmm, that's good. That's a good way to like kind of
It's
time yourself.
not, it's not, it's not always that, right? But on average, like you might have one slide that you only spend 15 seconds on, but then you have another slide that you're spending a minute and a half off. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's like a scaffold project, right? It's a big scary project at the end, but you're building your way up to it, and it's you're not just getting hit with it, all at once.
Yes. Yes. I think that's if we can get a good takeaway here is don't throw too much on your students at once. Um, Kelly in the chat, to support my students, learning assessments are scaffolded, meaning they gradually increase in complexity while reinforcing previous knowledge. Yeah, you could just think of scaffolding for those people who don't know is like where you're just kind of you're setting up a base of knowledge, and then that base of knowledge is required for the next level to work, and then you keep on stacking it up, but re everything underneath gets reinforced.
It's like I teach two Linux classes, Linux 1 and Linux 2, and some colleges only teach one. And I have students ask me, why do we teach two? Well, if you teach one, you're trying to get them to pass a certification, not necessarily mastering Linux or knowing how to use it in the industry. When I was doing that, I would have employers come to me and go, hey, your students know what Linux is and they can use a command line, but they don't know how to set it up in a work environment to make it a mail server or a web server or a VoIP server or a file server, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So then I added the Linux 2 class without taking Linux 1 and having a great foundation of an understanding of Linux. You're going to struggle in Linux 2. You
Oh,
are not going to. I have kids come off the street and go, "Oh, I took Linux, and I took Linux 1 or whatever at this other college and I'm great. I know Linux." And I'll say, "Okay, I'll let you in." And 2 weeks later, they're out. They're back in my Linux 1 class
oh my God.
because they didn't get what they thought they got. They got trained to pass a test.
Mm,
They didn't get trained to actually utilize it. So we
yeah.
have employers that contact us saying, I need a Linux admin and I'd love to hire somebody out of school. Who do you got? And I can just email the graduates. Anybody looking for work, apply.
Mm.
And they get it. They always get
Yeah,
it,
and they do a good job.
you
Yeah.
know. Well, Linux is not as how do I put this? It's relevant, but not as popular here because this is Washington.
Uh-huh.
But you'd be amazed at how many Linux admins are needed out there that we don't have enough. We just don't have enough to cover it. And it's getting worse because of AI, because all those
Mm.
servers in the background are Linux. AI runs on Linux. Linux is the reason AI is doing what it's doing.
Mm.
Without Linux, we
And for
wouldn't
those
have.
that don't know, you keep hearing the word Linux. Linux is icon or what's their thing? It's such a cute little penguin. We
The
love
penguin, yeah, Tux.
what's
They
his
call
name?
him Tux.
Tux?
Yeah, Tux, Tux. That's his name. I
Oh.
have a bunch of little Linux penguins and like little stuffed animals that I've accumulated over the years. But it's a
Next in service.
yeah,
Well, I'll try to find another little guy. Maybe we could do a
right
trade.
on. Yeah, it's an alternate operating system to Windows that is prevalently used on the internet. You don't normally know you're using it, but you're using it. If you have a a dishwasher or a refrigerator that has access to the internet, it's running Linux.
Oh,
Your
I didn't
doorbells
know.
are all running Linux. Even your cars, media centers and all that stuff for Linux, airplanes, people
And
would be
Linux
amazed.
is open source.
Yes,
Yeah,
meaning that it's free to use, free to change, free to alter. As long as you make it, if you make changes, you have to make them available to the world.
there we go.
That's the rule. So
That's the
knowledge
rule.
belongs to the world, and that's what they believe. And I do too. They get paid through support. So company wants to run Linux. Most Linux distros have a support option where companies can pay them to come in to help them set it up and manage it and teach them and train them. That's how they make their money.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, it's something that I've always I've known about it for a while. I just haven't really looked into
Well,
it. But
yep,
sounds like you're in it, and that's great. Giving people opportunities in jobs where it's needed. It sounds like so.
yep. You got to
Um,
learn it. The hackers are using it. That's how they're getting into your systems. If you want to defend it, you need to know how they're doing it, you know?
it's like somebody got hacked their washing machine and set up a Bitcoin
Yep.
distro on it.
That's awesome.
And the
That's
person's like,
great.
why is my why is my washing machine using so much energy? Like it wasn't using this much energy before. And then they like kind of went in and were like, your washing machine got hacked.
And it's generating Bitcoin. Oh, that's great.
So I don't know, it's something I
Blockchain.
heard in the past.
That's great.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're here for the time because I know it's almost one and y'all got grading and stuff to do. So there's one last question. Kelly said he could talk about it for a while, but maybe we'll just have to save it for the assignment. So if you want to take your time and write all that stuff out. The last question here, where and how do you provide opportunities for student choice in demonstrating their mastery of course learning outcomes and module objectives? Student choice, also known as universal design for learning, also known as all the stuff that we were talking about earlier. Kelly was talking about having the students make their own analogies, having them pick their own Linux, whatever version they want to do. So we got some good stuff going on related to that in this room. I apologize for all the tech talk, but it was me and Kelly in here for a while, so if it's just me and Kelly, we're gonna talk tech. So if anybody ever wants to come in and talk about something else, we have a couple more classes left before the end of this course. Kelly, thanks for stopping by. Derek, thank you as well. I will see you all not next week, but in 3 weeks on
Three
the
weeks.
4th of April, 4/4.
Cool. Well, thank you. We
If I
Thanks.
don't see
appreciate
you
it.
again, have a great break, gentlemen,
Appreciate it. You
and
too.
You too.
get some rest. We'll see you
Right
next time.
on. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.